Dirt so hard you can't jackhammer it back up. Sunny and dry, baked hard, right in those two spots at the end of your driveway. It rains and the water either pools right there or it runs right over it because the ground is so damn hard. If that rain pools there, it'll stay in a little pool for a while because the ground is too hard to soak it up. Some of that water will soak in, though, eventually, and that dried dirt ends up being this sticky paste until it dries again and it's baked hard as a rock again. Want to know the name for that soil type? Generally, it's called clay. Not enough air pockets in there to make for crumbly soil, which also means there's not enough air pockets in there for water to flow through, which also means there's not enough air pockets in there for plants' roots to really get through easily. Rough spot for plants to grow, right? No, come on, you silly goose. It turns out your dry, compacted soil at the end of your driveway is not a unique situation. You're not unique. It's a very regular kind of soil to have here in the United States, in some parts anyways. There are all sorts of natural regions and areas in North America with this scorched earth kind of soil, which means that there's all sorts of native plants that have evolved to live in these regions and areas with this very kind of soil. Nature abhors a vacuum. She's not going to let there be soil hanging around that a plant can't grow in. The plants that grow well in those dry, compacted soil spots have roots that are primo at busting up hard, crusty soil like this. Some of these plants even have a big taproot that drills straight through it. Pretty neat, right? Okay, so let's talk about some native flower options for you to plant right there in those two dry, hard spots at the end of your driveway that you think you can get nothing to grow in. Au contraire. So option 1 here is Callirhoe involucrata. So common name would be wine cups or purple poppy mallow. Purple poppy mallow. This is good if you need something low to the ground, which many people feel like they do at the end of their driveway. Because depending on if your driveway is around a curve or if it's near a blind spot, a tall plant could be troublesome, of course. So a low plant will keep your line of sight. So purple poppy mallow only grows to about a foot at most, so it's really nice for this spot. It will cover your whole spot. Purple poppy mallow spreads over an area, not like an out-of-control invasive plant, but in a nice kind of this spot will be covered kind of way. And if it spills over into your lawn a little bit, the lawnmower will keep it in line. And, you know, it could possibly spill into your driveway or your street a little bit. Clippers will keep that in line, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem, I would say. I also like this one, and it's at the top of my list because it blooms from May all the way to August. So you get a really good long time with it to see all these beautiful blooms. And it can actually also handle soil that isn't dried up, baked in, rock hard slab. So if your soil is slightly more loose or nutrient filled, purple poppy mallow will do fine there too. Okay, so that option 1 is my number 1 choice for this spot, that hard, dry spot at the end of your driveway. It'll look beautiful. It doesn't get in the way of your sight. It's perfect. But maybe you want something with a little more height. You want a little more action there at the end of your driveway. A lot of people do have big stone things at the end of your driveway, which gives height. So you're allowed to have a plant there that's a little taller. So the rest of these options, you can either just put the other options in by themselves, or you can plant the purple poppy mallow and then also put one of these other plants in there. So the purple poppy mallow will be along the ground, and you'll also have another plant that's coming up giving height and a different color or something, right? Okay, so option 2 then is Rudbeckia hirta, or the black-eyed Susan. Now, I know that black-eyed Susans are somewhat more popular, and so when people start getting into native plants, sometimes they avoid black-eyed Susans because they're so common. You can get them at big box stores, so like Lowe's or Home Depot, so you got to know they're somewhat common, right? Fair enough. But in this case, this commonplace girl next door, if you will, is a real gem. Just like with those purple poppy mallows, the black-eyed Susan roots drill straight down through compacted dirt. We actually have this dry, compacted, scorched earth spot in our yard in a different place, and black-eyed Susans just showed up there one year, and they've been thriving there ever since. It grows like a real champ. So black-eyed Susans will pleasantly spread slowly each year to cover that whole baked dirt spot. And if it tries to move into your lawn, you will hardly notice because, again, that lawnmower just zips right over anything that might be moving into your lawn. And they'll be happy in that sunny, rock-hard dirt spot at the end of your driveway. And when they're very happy there, they can get up to 3 feet tall. So that can be your height. If they're a little less happy, they'll stick closer to 1 or 2 feet. So do be sure that that height works for your driveway and your mailman if you have a mailbox at the end of your driveway. So I do like these black-eyed Susans as the height, and then the purple poppy mallow that I last showed you as being along the ground. I think they look very beautiful together. So option 3 here is Echinacea paradoxa, or the yellow coneflower. So the black-eyed Susan is a common yellow native flower that you see, but this little lovely is also yellow, but it's not quite as common to see. So it can handle the hardened soil just as well as anything else, or just as well as the others I'll present to you, but it gets up to 5 feet tall when it's really happy, which is a sight to behold, right? I didn't put this up higher on the list, though, because it blooms from June to July, so that's not a very long time. Those wine cups, for example, just keep blooming and blooming and blooming. But for those 2 end-of-driveway spots that might only have room for 1 native flower, you might not want something that will only be in bloom for 1 month of the year. However, if you have a smidge of space, combining this yellow coneflower with the wine cups might be quite striking, really. Well, now hold on just a mo, you're thinking. Isn't there a purple coneflower? Yes, there is. And here it is as option 4. Well, this is the pale purple coneflower, Echinacea pallida. Just like the black-eyed Susan, the pale purple coneflower and the regular purple coneflower, which is Echinacea purpurea, are somewhat popular native flowers to find around. Although one must take care not to confuse the purple coneflower with the pale purple coneflower, 2 different species, although both really are great. So the specs on this one, the pale purple coneflower, are the exact same as the yellow coneflower that you just saw. It can just get the same height. It likes full sun. It blooms the same June to July. It also has roots that bust right through that tough hardened dirt. So you could put this in one of those 2 end-of-driveway spots. It certainly brings in delightful bees and butterflies like the other flowers, and it can bring in birds that will eat the seeds. That short bloom time, though, is why it isn't higher on the list. And that it's a popular choice, I think it's nice to get a bigger variety of native choices into our yards. So that's another reason I didn't put this one up higher on the list. So here we have as option 5, Monarda fistulosa, or wild bergamot. So this is another purple darling for you. If you're in the native plant community, you've probably heard of this one as well. There are several different kinds of Monardas, and one way you can pick between them is based on your soil type. And for that hardened, cracked up, janky old dirt you've got at the bottom of your driveway, Monarda fistulosa, or this wild bergamot, is the one you want. It's a nice looking flower, right? So this one itself is not higher on the list because it won't be blooming until summer, but then again, it does keep going into the early fall, so that's nice. Depending on how happy she is, this gal can go from 2 to 5 feet tall. The Monardas, this one included, are certainly known for drawing in pollinators, which includes hummingbirds sometimes as well. I think the Monardas are very cool looking flowers. So if you want something that blooms all spring and summer in those driveway spots, you could nicely have those wine cups hugging the ground and then have a Monarda fistulosa popping up in the summertime. So those together could look very cool. So, all right, perhaps you would like some bush-like flowers if you want things that look like little bushes on either side of the end of your driveway. Take note here, though, that the foliage and the flowers for all of these will die back in the fall time, so they aren't actually bushes in the proper way that we think of them. So option 6 here then is Amsonia tabernaemontana, which is the common blue star or the Eastern Bluestar. And this one is nice because, like I said, it's more bush-like, which can look very cool at the end of your driveway. This will bloom in springtime, May to June, this very pretty blue, and then the leaves on it become this beautiful golden in the fall time. Like all of these, the hardened dirt problem is not a problem. And one thing that is a neat idea if you have a smidge of room is to plant this beauty that will be bush-like and blooms in the spring. And then you could also plant option 7 here too. So option 7 is this Asclepias tuberosa or butterfly weed. So this blooms to a similar height, 2 to 3 feet, as the common blue star, but it blooms from June to August, which is a nice follow-up to that common blue star blooming from May to June. So with both in your dried-up driveway spot, you get blooms all through the spring and summer. And the blue of the common blue star with the orange of the butterfly weed, blue and orange, look very nice together for any amount of time that they might overlap. So either option 6 or 7, the butterfly weed or the common blue star, either together or alone, will be very nice as a bush-like native to bring in delightful pollinators and create a very lovely little scene instead of that dead zone of dried, cracked earth that you have right now. So this is option 8, which is Liatris spicata, or the dense blazing star. So it's a later bloomer, and that's why it's not higher on the list. But oh, I love me a blazing star. This particular blazing star is neat because it tolerates a very wide variety of soil types, including dried up hardened soil. But over a couple years, it really starts to get bush-like. It'll make a little cluster that almost resembles the tall grasses that some people really like, but it's better because it makes beautiful flowers. So the videos you see here are newly established dense blazing star plants, so they're not very bush-like yet. And the pictures that you're seeing, the pictures are well-established ones, and you can really see then how they'll fill the patch of land that you give them and make this nice bush-like clump. Added bonus, you can buy it as a corm, which is, a corm is like a bulb, and you just pop the corm in the ground in the fall time, and the next year, boom, up it comes. No fuss. Okay, so finally I have 2 additional options for you that I will whip through pretty quick. They both can get pretty tall, and so it didn't feel quite appropriate for those scorched earth spots at the bottom of your driveway, only because they might hinder line of sight too much. They get maybe too tall. But you can decide what's appropriate for you. So here they are in relatively quick succession. Option 9 is Rudbeckia subtomentosa, so the sweet black-eyed Susan. Super tolerant of that scorched earth soil. They can get really tall, obviously. And they are the host plant for a couple butterflies. And this just means it's the plant that those butterflies will lay their eggs on. And then usually the hatching caterpillars will eat the leaves of that plant. And then here's option 10, Aster novae-angliae, or Symphotrichum novae-angliae, which is to say the New England aster. Sometimes these get so tall that they need to be staked up. They're a decent source of late nectar for pollinators, and of course, they are really very beautiful. So, there you have it. That baked hard as a rock, cracked earth at the end of your driveway can actually be the perfect place to grow some native plants and flowers. So this list of options will be available in the video description, as well as links to 2 native plant companies that I really trust to give you actually native plants, raised properly in good condition. So that's Prairie Nursery and Prairie Moon Nursery, my total faves. So what are you waiting for? Turn the Morador Hades at the end of your driveway into a butterfly and bumblebee hotspot. Plant native, my lovelies.